now time for The Sit Down with Don Tony.
The Sit Down, where Don Tony talks one-on-one with his followers.
What are you looking at?
About the world of pro wrestling, pop culture, and so much more.
The Sit Down with Don Tony.
And now, your host, Don Tony.
Zimpulse, thank you very much for that, my friend. Thank you, Zimpulse. Much love for that. And shout out to Neil Ray, who is gifting channel memberships live right now. What's going on, everyone? It's Sunday night. Was this the 8th of December, 2022? We're 2.5 weeks away from Christmas already. It's crazy how fast this year has gone by. Unbelievable. I'm just kind of taken back. I mean, the first 4 months seemed like it dragged, I think, because of the road to WrestleMania. Every week there was something big and important to go down, and we got kind of spoiled, let's be honest. I think once WrestleMania came and went, things seemed to have kind of sped up a little bit. And now we are, 8 months removed from WrestleMania, and we're almost at the end of the year. This coming Saturday is Saturday night's main event. A month from now is the Royal Rumble. And we're right back to the road to WrestleMania again. Unbelievable. But I hope everyone is having a wonderful weekend. I am Don Tony. Welcome to the Sit Down. What do we do on this show on Sunday nights? I like to coin the phrase, the lazy show. We basically just sit back and talk about whatever our live friends want to get into. You want to be part of the conversation, you got to show up Sunday night. If you want to dictate what we talk about, even if you just want to hang out and lurk, just sit back and listen. I appreciate each and every one of you out there. And, one quick plug, check out DTKCShow.com. The website is probably about 75% done. Now we're going to start adding features. It's kind of like what's happening on Netflix right now with WWE. Like if you go to Netflix, especially if you're overseas, you will see some WWE content on there, but it's not available yet. You have to wait until January 1. Probably New Year's Eve. It'll come out a few hours earlier, but they're starting to put everything together. And this Monday night, Kev and I will be live for your next installment of the Don Tony and Kevin Castle Show. That is going to be a really fun episode to get into. And I tell you, I think the biggest buzz coming out of the last 48 hours in wrestling is this transfer window. I don't know why they chose the term transfer window, but it's basically a superstar shakeup. When WWE announced the Netflix deal, rumors started to come out pretty early, and it was almost common sense. It's similar to like the Saudi Arabia deal. Saudi Arabia wants the top of the wrestlers. They also want the larger-than-life characters, those who come across as bigger than just your average wrestler. They don't want Starbucks-looking type guys and girls there. But WWE would stack Saudi Arabia. And early on, to really make an impression, we had some legends come out of retirement, which kind of backfired. I already started working on the revamped episodes of This Week in Wrestling History, which will launch the first week in January. That'll launch. I think January 9th. Oh, no, you know what? Probably January 2 will be the first episode that will drop. But, we had to revisit Goldberg taking on The Fiend. And I played that back, and that is one of the audio highlights we're going to feature. And, man, that crowd was kind of taken back, even in Saudi Arabia, and a little bit shocked that The Fiend lost the way he did. But as years went on, if you notice, there was a change with Saudi Arabia. I don't know if anybody picked up on it, Early on, it was about nostalgia. It was about the big headline names, legends from yesteryear, getting insane paydays from The Undertaker. Shawn Michaels, my God, he got a gigantic payday for Saudi Arabia, and I don't blame him. Smart man to do it, even though the match disappointed. But later on, when that new car smell wore away, and WWE did not have to stack, the shows with these, legends and old timers and larger than life names, then it became the biggest Royal Rumble of all time, the greatest in the world, the king of the ring, the queen of the ring. It's like the biggest, the largest, the most spectacular, unbelievable, greatest event in WWE history. So that's what Saudi Arabia has become. It's basically making the Crown Prince feel that, oh yeah, no, we do things like this on our regular premium live events, but in Saudi, we take it to a whole new level. We've had Battle Royals before, but this is the greatest one of all time. That's what's changed with Saudi Arabia now with Netflix. When Triple H says that he doesn't think people understand how big this deal is bigger than Saudi Arabia. And this is something that could secure WWE for over a decade to come. I know it's a 10-year deal, and I know Netflix could back out after 5, but the amount of money involved and its incentive to go even further. This is not, see, what a lot of people need to understand is it's not just about having a platform that has 400 million subscribers. Understand, if you bring back wrestling fans that have been out of love with wrestling for years, or you get countries and younger fans out there that suddenly see like, wow, this is cool shit. It's not just subscribing to Netflix. That turns into revenue because you start selling merchandise. You start getting a bigger fan base. So it is not just being able to have bigger viewership. That could spawn into something even better for WWE, and it's a trickle-down effect. Netflix becomes successful, and they have tremendous audiences. Advertisers want to pay even more money. A lot of people get angry when I bring this up, and I take pride. We were the only people that brought that to everybody's attention many, many months ago. On Location changed how premium live events are going down with WWE. If you want great seats, you go on, you want to sit front row, third row, you want to take home the chair, you want a little bit of a VIP experience. Now you pay over the top for it because WWE is in tremendous demand, and you are going to pay top premium dollar if you want that extra experience. That's why now Survivor Series, Elimination Chamber, anything that's coming up, go to On Location's website and just search WWE. Some of those packages are $5,000 a piece, and that's not even WrestleMania. So everything is a trickle-down effect. The stock right now, have you noticed, with all due respect, WrestleNomics, the analyst sites, the news sites, they can't wait to tell you when the WWE stock drops to $80 a share. Right now, that stock is, $138 a share? Do you understand the extra billions of dollars that WWE is worth now in the last couple of months? Anybody covering it? Nah. So this superstar shakeup, this transfer window, especially that WWE tries to mimic sports. Now, it gets the rub from NFL, gets the rub from other platforms. You think just a draft would be good enough. But now they want to do transfer windows. And basically what this is it's WWE's way to get the best roster that they could get to please Netflix. That's what this is all about. And it's going to be really interesting to see how NXT is affected by this. It's really interesting. Now, you think about, and I've talked about this before, especially on some of the news updates. You think about this insane deal that WWE's made with Netflix. And then you think about the USA Network deal with SmackDown. When you load up that roster for Netflix, where is your priority going to be? It's going to be Netflix. Does anybody in their right mind think that WWE is going to put 3 hours of SmackDown on a Friday night with most of the major stars hanging out on Monday Night Raw? That is going to be a hard sell for a lot of advertisers out there, especially if the ratings dip. Friday nights is not the greatest night to have wrestling or let alone any programming. So Netflix is the place. Netflix is the Saudi Arabia of weekly television now with WWE. And it's going to be really interesting to see who in NXT is going to be on the fast track to go to the main roster. And as I said last night on the news update, you got to also please CW. I mean, CW is this much compared to the WWE Netflix deal, but you still got to please CW. And CW made the deal because they're targeting a certain demographic. Now, when you see NXT and you see the stars that are portrayed, it's not, oh, there's so many black people on it. There's so many Latinos and it's so mixed and there's a lot of sexy women on it. No, when you look at CW and their bigger goal of who they're trying to attract in 2025, CW is undergoing a lot of changes right now. They are moving away from their normal programming. If you've watched CW over the last couple of years, you know pretty much what their format has been. Now they want to move and really, really target the 18 to 34-year-olds. Believe it or not, guys, I don't have the info in front of me, but CW's average age for their channel is like 51. You look at the programming that's been on CW, doesn't that kind of feel a little strange? Like when you know what programming is on CW and the average age of the viewer is in their 50s. It almost has a little creepy vibe to it. Like, wow, we got majority of 50-something-year-olds watching programming directed to 18 to 34-year-olds. So I'm looking forward to this transfer window. Somebody sent in a super chat earlier about this, and I'll bring it up now because I'll mention something else about this. Where is it? Who sent this? This was from Ronnie. What are my thoughts on the transfer window? How do I think it's going to go down? He likes the idea, but why not just do the draft earlier? On the surface, I agree with you. I think WWE doing a draft would be simpler, would be more logical, would be easier on the tongue, especially when you look at other sports. They do drafts every year. Why not fall in line and make it more relatable to sports fans? I think the reason why they're doing this is because they want to do trades. There's a big difference between doing drafts and doing trades. Remember last year's draft? I remember it. I remember for like 2-3 weeks leading up to the draft, we saw Ava Raine in the offices with Adam Pearce and Nick Aldis. Who got drafted to NXT? I'll wait. Who got drafted to NXT? So if you do a draft this year and you are bringing up NXT, you can't do the same crap you did earlier this year. Did I say last year? I meant this year. I'm jumping a little ahead. Earlier this year. I mean, so if you do trades, now it gets more interesting. Now you could have bragging rights. I was traded for so-and-so. You could do 2-for-1 deals. You could do a faction for Roman Reigns. You could do so many different things. But the end game, the mission statement here is to give the Raw roster that much more. Because they're not going to go TV 14. You might sneak some in on the third hour if they go back to 3 hours, but they're not going TV 14. We've been telling you that since day one. Oh, Attitude is back and this. The only difference that's going to happen on Netflix is the crowd chants will not be censored. Pat McAfee will have a couple of expletives, and you will once in a while get a little blood, a little bit extra. But remember, guys, the fans do not dictate it. It's the advertisers that dictate it. Even when Vince was still in power, how many years did we beat it to death that WWE was not answering to us? They were answering to the stockholders, the investors, and the advertisers. That who dictates it. If you don't believe me, and I've said this a few times in the last couple of weeks, tomorrow night on Monday Night Raw, watch USA Network 15 minutes before Raw starts, 15 minutes after Raw ends, especially before it starts. You will sit there, and listen, I don't care about cursing. It doesn't matter to me. If it's done or it's not done, it doesn't matter to me. I think it's stupid to curse just to curse. But I think there's that show Suits or whatever it is. I don't remember the name of it, but I watched it last week, 15 minutes before Raw started, and all I heard was, holy shit, we could get this fucking deal. That would be bullshit. Wow, these assholes. I did this poll. 75% of these fucking assholes. And everything is not censored except for the F word. I heard asshole and bullshit at least 6 or 7 times. And this is before Raw started. And Raw, you can't even have a crowd chant, holy shit. It's the advertisers. The advertisers on Netflix will dictate how much more you get. And the fact that Nick Khan is saying this now, and you may say, well, DT, how come Nick Khan and Triple H didn't say this 6 months ago? Well, 6 months ago, they probably didn't know who was going to buy advertising space for Netflix. They didn't know what Netflix was going to be bringing on. So they sell the advertising space, and now we're less than a month away, and Netflix knows who is going to be advertising during Raw. So based on the advertisers, what that tells me is that a lot of people who advertise on the USA Network are also going to advertise on Netflix. Because if they got a whole different set of advertisers that are fine with expletives, you would definitely relax it a little bit more. But keep in mind, and this is the most important thing I've been saying since the deal started, you're not going to ruin what's not broken. Whether we like it or not, families and kids are a big part of WWE's viewership and revenue and fan base. And you're not, because they go to Netflix, say to all those little kids, the fuck out of here. The fuck out of here. No, we're going to TV 14. Don't like it? Then you watch Sneak Us. When your parents fall asleep, go watch us. Go watch this on your Fisher-Price cell phone. No, they're not going to alienate a huge part. Stockholders and investors wouldn't allow it. That's why, sorry to bring it up again, but I love it. It put such a smile on my face a year and a half ago. Remember all those news sites that starting this Monday night, WWE's going back to TV 14? The PG era is dead. And Kev and I, we were doing special episodes last year. We went on that same night and said, what are these people talking about? WWE would have to get the okay from investors, stockholders, there is a difference, advertisers, and the network themselves. You don't have investors investing in your company and an advertiser then suddenly say, we're going to just start going Attitude. You can't do that. So when I saw all these wrestling news sites reporting this, and every one of the top wrestling news sites were reporting it, I think we were the only people that called bullshit since day one. It ended up being bullshit. Same thing with Netflix. Same thing last year or earlier this year when The Rock made Cody bleed. Mama Rhodes. Oh my God, Attitude is back. I still, for a good laugh, go on YouTube and I look at the thumbnails from some of my fellow podcasters for those weeks leading up to WrestleMania that PG is dead, the Attitude Era is back, the Netflix era is here. Oh my God, we're going to get blood, we're going to get expletives, we're going to get this, we're going to get this. It's, oh my God, PG is dead. All right. I don't know how we started with an opening rant, but we did. So let's start getting into your questions. Just to finish up what Ronnie said about the transfer, the shakeup. It's going to be really interesting to see who on the main roster ends up going back to NXT. And one thing that WWE needs to continue doing for the rest of the year is to make NXT's worth, perception of it, be as positive and as high as possible. Because you don't want fans, when someone gets traded to NXT, you don't want the fans to consider it a downgrade. I don't care storyline or not. You don't want a whole bunch of wrestlers to give this perception like, wow, I got demoted. You cannot let NXT have the aura of a demotion. Revamping, spicing things up, trying to tweak things. Yeah, you could do that. Somebody's not being used to their potential on the main roster. Yeah, you put them on NXT. But it's going to be interesting to see who goes to NXT. That's probably more fascinating to me than anything else. Because especially if Raw stays 2 hours, oh my God, the spots are so limited as it is that, there's going to be people that probably would want to go to NXT rather than sit in catering. Because you sit in catering, you're really not giving, you're not giving anything back, so to speak, unless you're doing conventions, appearances, going to schools, going on promotional trips for WWE. You want to have worth. And if I'm a wrestler, I'd rather go to NXT than sit in catering, to be honest with you. So, speaking of sitting around doing nothing, a little bit later we'll talk about Rey Fenix, if you guys want me to talk about it. Because, I touched on it briefly yesterday, but I have a few things to say about Rey Fenix. I don't even think you could blame this on Google Translate or even Twitter Translate, that maybe he just wrote the wrong wording because he doesn't speak English. I translated what he said back and forth. And no, that's what he intended to say. And he's let it sit now for 24 hours, more than that. So Rey Fenix knows, it's not like that he's out and about and then 24 hours later, Chico, do you realize the commotion you caused online? You see all this, oh my God, no, I did not mean that. I wasn't talking about that. I was talking about the migrant crisis. I was talking about Ricky Starks. I wasn't talking about me. Nah, you let it sit for 28 hours, son. Now you got to kind of like lie in your bed. Inhumane treatment. Unbelievable. Inhumane treatment. Inhumane treatment. All right. Let's get into a couple of questions here, and then we'll head over to the chat. Yeah, you know what? Hey, big shout out to, whoa. that didn't work. Oh, I see something reset over here. Okay. We'll shout out our channel members in a little bit. Curator Vibrations is a channel member. He is live right now. Austin Nance, OTS Tribal Queen, our moderators and channel members too. Shout out to them. Much love. Thank you for holding the ship down. Shout out to everybody that supports what we do. Thank you very much as always. Appreciate it. And 2025, when we're looking to take back our crown in 2025. It's not do or die because, our followers and our listeners and I don't like calling you fan base. We're family. I in all the years of me doing this, I never liked using the word fan. If you've noticed, since 97, don't like that. I'm just a regular nobody. To be honest with you, I know this. No, you're somebody. No, I'm just a regular guy, just like Kev. We're all family here, but our family has grown since January 29th. And 2025, I'm telling you guys, we're going to take it back. Don't know when it'll happen the right way. We're not going to go to Tony Khan route and buy stats to get back to the top. Want to shout out Will Chisholm. Will, thank you for the 5 spot. Does Julia beat Roxanne Perez for the title? Or will Stephanie Vacker turn on her and cost her, and Julia winds up with the title at Stand and Deliver? Here's the thing, Will. I touched on this briefly yesterday, but I really, we talked about so much with the news update for the weekend, really could not spend any time on it. You bring up a very, very, very good question. And, I think everyone out there needs to understand you got to please CW Network as well. And this is not a knock on Julia or Stephanie Vacker. I freaking love both of them. Stephanie Vacker has quickly become my favorite woman in NXT, not just because of those TikTok videos. Julia is awesome too. You see those women and you say, how were they not picked up sooner from WWE or AEW? And I know you're going to say, well, Stephanie Vacker had a match in AEW. Yeah, but they didn't sign her to a contract. They should have signed it to a deal beforehand. But the thing was that Stephanie Vacker wasn't on anybody's radar. That's just a fact. She came out of nowhere and it clicked. And she got what she got. CW Network, they have certain people that headline all their promotional material. Roxanne Perez is one of the biggest names there. Not saying that Roxanne Perez is going to be stuck in NXT to please CW. I'm not saying that at all. The thing is, I'm not comparing Roxanne Perez to Indy Hartwell. But remember Indy Hartwell, guys. Remember the petitions. Give Indy a chance. Bring it to the main roster. I'm not trying to brag because I know I wasn't the only one that said it. I know a lot of you said it as well. But when fans were doing that, they do it for the heart emojis. Oh, my favorite was promoted to the main roster. I'm so happy for you, Indy. I want to cry. I'm going to go eat a tub of ice cream. I'm so happy for you. Oh, my God, it's beautiful. It's amazing. They're giving you an opportunity. And even though I absolutely loved Indy Hartwell in NXT, my concern from day one was, how is she going to leapfrog about 12 or 13 women on that main roster? My fear was, after a few months, people are going to want to see Dexter Lumis and Indy Hartwell double date with Johnny Gargano and Candice LeRae on Raw or on SmackDown. Indy Hartwell bringing to the main roster was great and everything, but she wasn't going to leapfrog a ton of women. And then they tried to give her the push with Candice LeRae, and they shut some people up online, and they gave them a little bit of extra TV and premium live event time. But the fact of the matter is, there are so many women on the horizon to bring up, and she became expendable. There are other women that are going to become expendable as well. And the thing is, Roxanne Perez, if you bring it to the main roster, does she end up being like an Aaliyah? Not saying babyface or heel, but Aaliyah was more of like, she caused upsets when she won matches. Like nobody looked at her and said, she's going to get a push. She deserves a title. No. Every time she won, upset victory. You look at Roxanne Perez, you bring into that main roster. Is she going to leapfrog enough people where she can hold that position right now? Might be a little bit too early. They might be able to find a spot for her. But the thing is that I think Julia winning the women's championship is what a lot of NXT fans want. Roxanne Perez has done a great job with it. And if Julia does win that championship, that tells me Roxanne Perez is on her way to the main roster. Do not discount the possibility of Julia going to the main roster quicker than people think. Is that also possibility that Julia loses to Roxanne Perez and then she goes to the main roster. I know you don't like people to have multiple losses and then get promoted. Usually you have a big run first and then you're kind of giving back a little bit. And then you go to the main roster. My gut feeling tells me that Julia wins the NXT championship. She already lost to Roxanne Perez once. I think she wins it this time around. And maybe Stephanie Vaquer turns heel. Maybe she celebrates with Julia and then attacks Julia right after the match. And that puts all the attention on Stephanie Vaquer, and Roxanne Perez quietly walks out. And then maybe she shows up on TV. Now, you got to also think about something else. And this is something I brought up yesterday. I don't think Tiffany Stratton's going to cash in on the NXT Women's Championship. But if you remember 3 or 4 weeks ago, Kevin and I were joking about that. Like, do not leave out the possibility of Tiffany Stratton cashing in on NXT. Yesterday at Deadline, that's exactly what Tiffany did. She's going to be watching to see what happens with Roxanne Perez and Julia, and she might just cash in. But something else. New Year's Evil is going to be in Los Angeles. It's the day after the Netflix debut. You're going to see a large presence of main roster talent on NXT. You probably will see some cameos talking to Ava Raine about the transfer window. You might get some people who are not being used all that much on the main roster right now, and then they show up in NXT because they want that opportunity. You could see that happening. And there's always the wild card that The Rock could show up in NXT. I know it sounds nuts. I know. I don't think it'll happen because if the rating is under 1 million, just think back at the Cena Undertaker tweet by Tony Khan. I don't think people want that to live in infamy. But I think right now Julia has an excellent chance, Will, of winning the women's championship. I really do. I really do. Thank you for that, Will. Lone Force 99. Randy Orton brings back the punt kick to Kevin Owens at Saturday night's main event. I don't know if he brings back the punt at Saturday night's main event. I think if Randy Orton punts Kevin Owens gets taken out on a stretcher. I don't know if you're going to go that deep for Saturday night's main event, but I do believe Randy Orton returns at Saturday night's main event. Maybe they have a match at the Royal Rumble. Because keep in mind, I'm convinced Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens is a WrestleMania match. I think that will happen. Kevin Owens versus Sami Zayn. I can see the video package already. You look back last year, what happened with them, and all of their, history. Now Sami Zayn is the babyface and Kevin Owens is the heel. Kevin Owens could have the same storyline like he has with Cody Rhodes right now. You teamed up with the person that tried to ruin my career, hurt my family, hurt my livelihood. You're not a friend. You can do the very same storyline. So if Randy Orton punts Kevin Owens has to be out of action for a little while. I don't know. We'll see. I don't think the punt will happen at Saturday night's main event, but I think Randy Orton returning absolutely will. Absolutely will. Dog 29J, did I let Kev know about Don Pony, and do I still have heat with Jason Powell or Gabe Sapolsky? Yeah, we'll I used to call him Gabe Sapolak. It's not that I don't have heat with them anymore, to be honest, and if Gabe hears this, Jason Powell hears this, they will agree 1,000% of what I'm about to say. They didn't give a shit about me from the beginning. So it's not like I had heat with them. They just didn't like me. I'm still blocked by Gabe Sapolsky. I have said nice things about Gabe for several years now. I don't have any issue with Gabe Sapolsky anymore. You got to understand something. And listen, we're in the year 2024. And if I'm still bringing up stuff from 2002, there's something wrong with me. But what people need to understand is that my problem with Gabe Sapolsky goes back to his Ring of Honor days and how he treated some of the wrestlers there because they wanted to get an extra payday with XPW. And then when USA Pro Wrestling was doing some stuff, Gabe Sapolsky, along with others, were being real dicks about certain talents. But my big problem with Gabe Sapolsky stems back to the Ring of Honor days. And for those that don't know the story, I'll tell one very quick story. It's dirt, so you probably like it. When XPW came to the Northeast, I was heavily involved with, pushing tickets and promoting the show in the Northeast. And because everything XPW was West Coast. So they needed people in New York to basically handle a lot of the local stuff. We drove to Philly, dropped the tapes off so Philly fans could watch XPW on TV on a weekly basis. We did, we looked into insurance. I still have the insurance papers and all that. That guy Slash, even though we had problems and a falling out, but he was very, very heavily involved and very responsible and did a good job with XPW. But the thing is that anybody that goes back to the early days of Ring of Honor will remember two wrestlers by the name of Boogaloo and Lowrider. And Boogaloo and Lowrider wanted to work XPW's first or second event because they wanted a payday. And I'll never forget it. And if any of you ever talk to those guys, they'll confirm everything what I'm saying is 100% true. They might not want to talk about it, even though it's 22 years later, but who wants to stir up shit now? I'll never forget it. I was at Slash's house in Baldwin, Long Island, and we were on the phone with, I think it was Boogaloo. I don't remember which one had a family who was married with kids. It was either Boogaloo, Lowrider, or maybe both of them. And basically, they wanted to work the XPW payday to, for the family, make money. And basically, what Ring of Honor Gabe Sapolsky did was if Boogaloo and Lowrider worked even one XPW event, they would be removed and out of Ring of Honor. Ring of Honor was their daily job. And basically, anybody that wrestled in Ring of Honor, if you dare wrestle a match in XPW, you would be removed. You would be fired. I don't think Gabe Sapolsky had any power to do that. But who wants to risk ruining their family livelihood? Funny thing is, Boogaloo and Lowrider ended up working the XPW event, and I think they were gone from Ring of Honor afterwards. They got paid very nicely. But ever since then, I had a lot of anger for Gabe Sapolsky. Didn't like him. I thought he was a snake in the grass. What he did for ECW, I will always admire that. And again, I don't have any issues with him anymore. What happened back in those days is outdated, but you got to understand the sign of the times. I don't dislike people just to dislike people. There's usually a legitimate answer behind it. Jason Powell, it was more about his reporting, and when we would give him, event stuff for events that Frank was doing, he wouldn't plug it. Or get buried like on page 22 of something. I didn't like him either. I just felt like, it was just, are you a journalist or you're looking for a hand job? But again, you're talking 20 years ago, so I don't have issues with either one anymore. And I didn't tell Kev about Don Pony. Actually, no, we did have a conversation on DTKC Discord about 3 weeks ago when I told the story about, reminding him about that fan. And somebody in the Discord, even that night, said that he died. So I'm 99.9% sure that Kev knows about it. I could swear we talked about the fact that he was like, because I remember in the chat going, oh no, he was so young. How old was he? He was like 13, 14 years old. So I do remember that reaction. So I'm pretty sure he knows about it. So just sad to see a kid die that young. So thank you for that. Let's see, who else? Steve Joseph. My thoughts on the healthcare CEO worker or CEO of the healthcare company killed in New York City. They haven't caught its killer yet. I'll say it blunt, plain, and simple, if anybody knows the story. Welcome to the mafia world. It was a hit. What people don't understand, listen, nobody deserves to get killed. He was a loving father, had kids, loving husband. Everybody says he was a nice guy. But apparently there is some big investigations going on that several executives sold over $100 million of stock right before the stock tanked. And either he was involved with it or he was aware of it. And that was a hit job on him. That basically they were worried that he'd get arrested or maybe indicted from the feds and he was going to start talking. So that's from my neck of the woods, because this happened not too far from where I live. That's what most people in my neck of the woods, especially I'm in the insurance industry, most people will believe it was a hit job because of the financial stuff. I think whoever this person is was hired from someone. I don't think there was a direct relationship. You know, there's a weird AI video floating around. Somebody made an AI video where it looks like the guy is smiling and some facial reactions. That's fake video for those that find that. But that's what happened. It was a hit job. I don't think it was anything else but a hit job. But again, that aspect is covered up a little bit because he was a likable guy, a good father, good husband, friends with a lot of people. And, you know, unfortunately, nice people get involved with shady stuff and they get whacked. They get whacked. I mean, I'm not justifying it, but I'm telling you what we believe it is. Thank you for that. Jimmy James, shame on YouTube for not letting me write the G word rhymes with Bay in my last tweet. I see you put another super chat here. Maybe you meant super chat. Let's see. Okay, I see what you did. This was your first comment. This was the second comment. All right. I saw this right before we went live, so I pulled the quote. Jimmy James sent the 20 spot and says, DT, I want my money's worth. Please discuss Effy pulling the G card, rhymes with Bay, to justify his insult at Tony Khan for announcing the Hammerstein Ballroom the same time GCW is going to be there. GCW is on the decline, and it's sad to see. I don't follow GCW much, so I don't know as far as how much of a decline that they are in. I'll take your word for it. I think we were the only people that pointed out that GCW had only sold 500 tickets for the Hammerstein Ballroom before the AEW announcement. Nobody brings that up. See, Effy, I don't have anything against him. But when he was saying that AEW was killing their momentum and could hurt, the ticket sales were not strong before the announcement. But nobody's covering that aspect of it because it's more juicy to just keep that part out of it. As far as Effy pulling that card, and listen, why am I not saying it here? Because based on what Jimmy said over here, that he could, and he put an asterisk for the letter A, that YouTube wouldn't even let him write that word in a super chat, which I think is ridiculous. I mean, you can't say that word and you be censored for it. Now, of course, we don't make much money on YouTube, but the last thing I want to do is get demonetized because I said a word or two. I'll say this. Effy reminds me of Joey 924. Now, for those that don't know who that is, longtime listeners and viewers know who it is. Back when I started bringing hotlines to the internet. We started doing shows in 2003. We called it webcast at the time. The name of the show that we did was The Minority Report. The reason why it was called The Minority Report is because I was on it. I'm Italian. Kev is Irish and Italian. We had a guy, Joey 924, that is Puerto Rican, that is wheelchair bound. We had Black Moses on the show who was black. We had Smoked Out who was black, complete with dreads. We had Dave the Genetic Freak later on who was Jewish. We had all different nationalities, so we called our show The Minority Report. And everybody was great. Joey 924 was fun to do shows with. But Joey 924 had a habit of doing something. And it ended up crossing my path. And that's what led to the Don, Tony, and Kevin Castle show. What happened was he brought this guy on. We called him Raccoon. I don't remember his name right now, but he was a real nerdy guy that would go to wrestling conventions and wear like weird wrestling stuff and hold up title belts. And anybody in the chat remember his name? We would call him the Raccoon. And I used to have some fun with the guy. But Joey 924 one time went after me and went after me really, really hard. So I fought back. And I told him, I said, I'm going to push you off the cliff. Or I'm going to put a tree branch in your tire and see how you like it, you know. And keep in mind, when I worked for XPW, Joey 924 and Black Moses were my guests that went to Philly twice. Everything paid. Got to meet all the wrestlers, hung out with Chris Candido, God rest his soul, Tammy, Daphne, God rest her soul, and everybody else. Got autographs, took pictures with everyone, sat front row, didn't pay a dime. So I was friends with them. But Joey really went after me once on the show, and I fought back. And he said to me, he goes, can't believe you would treat someone like in a wheelchair like that. And I was like, motherfucker, go fuck yourself. Because if you're going to be an asshole and you're going to open up your mouth and you're going to say stupid shit, then own up to it. Don't hide behind a wheelchair. I'll push that fucking wheelchair off a cliff. I'll put tree branches in your spokes and see what it's like when you fall on the floor and you look like a turtle and you can't get up. I went off on him because don't you dare throw color in my face. Don't throw handicap in my face. Don't throw anything in my face. You want to come at me, that's fine. But if I come at you back, I'm coming at you man to man, not man to invalid. And we had the big falling out and he was gone. So Effy, when I read his comment after you super chatted me that, I went and I looked up his comment because I thought you were talking about what he said about the football team and everything else. And if you go back to that clip, I even said, whoever that guy was that was interviewing Effy, that guy deserved a slap in the face because he was pushing Effy to that direction, throwing snide remarks. Oh, does Brett own a football team? Yeah, whoever that was an instigator. All right. So they were guilty at they knew exactly what they were doing. But obviously it's hurting GCW more than they expected. So Effy made a comment, and I'm going to read you the comment word for word. The only thing I'll do is I'll just say G instead of the word that rhymes with bay, because I don't want to get in trouble here. Listen to this closely, because Effy said this, I guess, yesterday. Once again, not an excuse. I'm a G guy in the G community. We're very shady to each other. And I think it comes from a place where we always felt like outcasts. We've always been on the outside. With our version of love, we can say, love you so much. And also, those pants are horrible. And you look terrible in this outfit. Sometimes it comes across a little bit more mean-spirited than I think I mean it to. What the fuck does his sexuality have to do with basically calling Tony Khan, a money mark and his father, and saying he's hiding behind his sexuality. That is no better than Joey 924, in my honest opinion. That's terrible. That's terrible. You said, well, because I'm a G, that's how we've always felt like alcohol. Oh, I get it. So because you always felt a different way, that you kind of get a little bit too brash. You really don't mean it that way, but maybe if Tony Khan liked his M&Ms with peanuts, then maybe Tony Khan would have understood, oh, that's just Effy. Imagine if Tony Khan or somebody would have said, imagine if anybody in the wrestling news world, imagine if that girl from Fightful, which I kind of, I did not criticize her much. It was a misguided question, but she was asking it, not defending her, but she was asking it because of how the net has always pushed that, Triple H don't push black people on premium live events and this and that. She was basically reacting to a very popular social media argument that people were foolishly saying. But imagine if somebody in the media world said, well, you know what? Effy's just saying that because he's homosexual. And in that community, they're outcasts. You imagine if somebody in the news world would have said that? This guy's hiding behind his sexuality, using it as an excuse to say some horrible. Listen, I will give Tony Khan my share of criticism, deserved. But man, if I'm GCW, you know what? You give that guy that much power, and this is what you get out of it. You might want to reevaluate, take care of your business. I don't care if somebody's straight, gay, has 10 toes, 15 toes, their sister is their husband, or whatever it is. I don't care. But do not hide or use a disability or your sexuality or your colors of your skin as an excuse to say dumb shit. That's my honest take. I hope I gave you your money's worth. But, I think that's terrible. That is absolutely terrible. Why does it seem like I haven't seen any new chats pop up? Hang on a second. I got to reload a page here. Just give me 1 second, guys, because for some reason, the chat room froze. So I would love to see everybody's response to what I'm saying here. Let's see. Just give it a second, guys. If you could see me live right now, just give it a second. For some reason, I can't see you guys. Hold on a second. My sincere apologies. I really don't want to reload my whole browser, but I may have to. Wow, we get on a controversial topic and my fucking browser freezes. Unbelievable. All right, let me just reload it. Take me 2 seconds. Hang on, guys. Sorry about this. I obviously have to enable the chat room because that's why we do these shows. So I don't know why this is giving me issues. There we go. All right. We'll be back in business in about 15 seconds. There we go. All right. Again, listen, this is live, so obviously sometimes we will have an issue. Hold on. There we go. All right. It's loading. Hopefully we didn't get disconnected, right? Okay. All right. So you heard me the whole time? No, YouTube wasn't trying to shut me down. I didn't say anything bad. I think I was very fair in what I said, to be honest with you. Don't use your sexuality, skin color, religion, whatever it is, disability, as an excuse to say stupid shit. Stand by what you say, and that's it. Or be man enough to apologize. Listen, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Keep your analysis as to why you're sorry to yourself. That's my honest take on that. So, all right. Dog29J, any chance I could play the CM Punk Lie, Cheat, and Squeal song? Could I do the Macho Man impersonation and my Paul Bearer? Well, I don't have the CM Punk song in this computer. Macho Man, we're going to get gross for a second, guys. I'm sure nobody's going to complain because I'm not really going to the bathroom. I never knew that I actually could do the Macho Man impersonation as good as I could. I mean, when we were young, we would like, what you going to do, brother? And we would like do like, oh yeah. Like, you would sound like them a little bit, but keep in mind at that time, I'm a preteen, I'm a teenager. So we didn't have the deep voice that we have now. So and I talked about this on the hotline about 15, 20 years ago, I was taking a dump and it wouldn't come out. And I'm sorry if I'm recreating this right now, but I'm sure people will have a good laugh out of it because this is what about the show is. Have fun, talk wrestling, laugh a little bit. No anger, no angst. We could criticize, but do it in a fun way. I was taking a dump about 15, 20 years ago, and it was right before a DT or a Minority Report episode, and it wouldn't come out. And I remember, like me now, when it doesn't come out, I take magnesium or I take Axlax. And then it comes out eventually. But back in the day, you would kind of like force it out. Like you would sit there and like, ugh. So one time I was in the bathroom. I have to take the glasses off of this. I'm in the bathroom and it won't come out, but it's there. It's there. It's almost like, remember when they used to say with Owen Hart that one little nugget that wouldn't flush? That's what Owen Hart was. God rest his soul. Well, for me, not even a nugget would come out. So I was sitting on the bowl, forcing it, and finally came out. And when it came out, I don't know why, but I was like, ooh, yeah. Just something like that. And I was like, holy shit, I sounded like Macho Man. And then the next time I went to the bathroom, I purposely was like, ooh, yeah, funky like a monkey, yeah. Ooh. And we talked about it on the show. That's the God honest truth. That's how I learned my Macho Man impersonation. Taking a dump, it wouldn't come out. It finally came out, and when it finally, it was like, yeah. That's the truth. Paul Bearer, you know what the problem is with Paul Bearer? Like, I have to hear his voice. See, there's some things I could do that I don't need to hear the voice, like Kermit the Frog. Hey, Kermit the Frog here. See, I can't even do it unless like Road Warrior stuff. But with Paul Bearer, like I have to hear him before I do it, because when they did the Save Me Undertaker stuff, when he got buried in oatmeal, remember that time when Paul Heyman was involved and Paul Bearer got buried in oatmeal? It was supposed to be cement or quicksand, whatever it was. He was in that tank. I remember on the show going, save me. Oh, yes. But I have to hear his voice before I do it. So on the next show, I'll put a clip in the computer and then I'll do it. It'll sound much better. So yeah, Benjamin, I was told it was oatmeal. Which is really interesting because oatmeal, if anybody eats oatmeal, it is sticky. It might have been a combination of, you know what I think it was? I think it was a combination of oatmeal, sawdust, and some other things. Because, look, you get in there, obviously you could go behind the tank and get your ass out of there. But that shit is sticky. Oh, my God. And the sawdust, I don't know how the sawdust would react to it, but I think it would soak up a little bit of I don't know. But, yeah, we do a lot of impersonations over the years. Sometimes we do it, and I don't even know that I could do it. I don't know what we did recently, but I did one, and people were dying, and I was like, I never did that voice before. So, but thank you for that. Thank you for that. I think we are caught up with Super Chats. Yes, we are. So let's head over to the chat. Let's talk about, oh, yeah. See, I have to be on the bowl. You know what I'll do? Next time I'm on the bowl, I'll take my phone. I'll put the camera the other way so it's not filming me. And you'll hear my voice go, ooh, Oh, yeah, funky like a monkey. Yeah. Dig it. You remember when we had the Macho Man plug for our hotline? Yo, Anthony, this is the Macho Man Randy Savage. It was like 2002, I think it was. We had a hotline plug from the Macho Man Randy Savage. I still have it somewhere in my old hard drive. That shit was funny, man. I remember when we played the Mach from, what was it, Gorgeous George? That was good stuff, man. Rowdy Howard, Women's Iron Survivor at Deadline was an indictment on women's war games last weekend. No weapons, plunder, or cage dives. It was far more fun and compelling match than war games. Well, here's the thing about war games last year, and the year before, and this year. The last 2 years, everybody feels like war games needs to raise the bar that much more. And right after war games this year on the men's side, I brought this up once before. I saw Brian Alvarez and Dave Meltzer do a discussion, and the title was, War Games Should Have Had Blood. And I was like, no, it didn't need blood. It did what it was supposed to. It told the story. And, the bleeding should be very rare, and that is coming from the mindset that AEW, there's blood a lot more. The blood should be spilled. Blood doesn't need to be spilled in order for something to be good. But what happens is on the women's side, nothing clicked. And it felt like people doing spots to get their spots in. Iron Survivor is not necessarily about spots, although I did predict Sol Ruka to win it, so I got it wrong. But I saw Sol Ruka do that 360 flip into a buckshot lariat, and I was like, don't you ever do that again. Like, okay, we know you got a great gymnastics background and you are amazing with your flips, but don't do flips simply to do flips. She did a 360 in the ring, and which led to a buckshot lariat, and it looks stupid. But Deadline is about winning falls. War Games is not. And the problem that a lot of people have with War Games is for the first 30 minutes, it's just beatdowns. And it does get a little tiresome after a while. That's what War Games is. It's just beatdowns until everybody's in the match. There's no pins. There's no submissions. There's no countouts. So if you don't have that extra oomph, it gets underwhelming. And that's what happened this year with War Games. Now, I saw a couple of geniuses, and I'm sure you've seen the tweets. We're probably going to show one tomorrow on the DTKC show because one of them got like 800,000 views and got about 10,000 likes. And somebody wrote, because of the 3 injuries this year to War Games, Tongaloa, Jimmy Uso, and Bronson Reed, that maybe WWE should skip War Games next year. And because of the injuries. And I'm like, dopey. Don't have a 400-pound man dive off the fucking top of a cage. Duh. Tongaloa, there's nothing you could do about. Torn bicep, nothing you could do about that. Jimmy Uso breaking a toe, doing a dive, that's a freak incident as well. Turn around and scrap the entire War Games because of a couple of injuries, and I couldn't believe 10,000 people think that's a good idea. The Iron Survivor Challenge is a different concept as far as how to win. That's why I don't compare the Iron Survivor Challenge to War Games. War Games just didn't click this year. I mean, it is what it is. The way they made Rhea Ripley come off, I didn't like it. It feels like the situation with her and Liv Morgan is not ending anytime soon. And what's funny, guys? I was, again, preparing for the next year's revamp of This Week in Wrestling History episodes. And I was listening to the final 10 minutes of the Royal Rumble, I think of this year. And you'd be surprised how much during that match it involves Liv Morgan and Rhea Ripley. And this is before Mania. This is before, I think it was this year. I don't think it was last year. It was this year. When you hear the audio, you'll know what I'm talking about. But I don't compare the Iron Survivor Challenge to War Games. I think it's unfair. But it was very underwhelming. And you don't want to do War Games just to do War Games. And I think the problem with the women this year also is it just felt put together. It just felt like, oh, the men have one, the women have to have one too. And I hate that mindset. Because the men have it, the women have to have it. You know, I get it. You want to do it with championships to keep it even. That's fine with me. You want to give a little bit more equal time on TV. That's fine with me. But to force a certain mindset, you know, just because the men have one already, the bloodline versus the bloodline is a storyline that is a very long time developing to this. This was anger, heat, and revenge. This women's side of it had little elements of it, but a lot of it was just put together. And you see 6 months from now, and you see some of the women that were in that match are almost a non-factor. All right. Tristan wants my thoughts on the Vince McMahon Kiss My Ass Club. I thought it was hilarious when he first did it. My ass does tricks. I thought it was hilarious. After a while, it got a little ridiculous. You know, William Regal kissed Vince's ass like Dominic Mysterio kisses Liv Morgan. Pretend this is Vince's ass. And this is exactly what William Regal did. And that's what Dominic Mysterio does. You ever notice how Dominic Mysterio kisses Liv Morgan? I brought this up before. He kisses her like she's a dog. He goes to the top of her head and he's like, the Kiss My Ass Club was about a billionaire abusing his power. That's what it was. I didn't have much issue to it. I used to laugh with Jerry Lawler's reactions. Jerry Lawler's reactions were priceless with the Kiss My Ass Clubs. Jim Ross got it bad. Shawn Michaels got it bad too. But yeah, I mean, it was fun. It was fun in the beginning, but then it got really, really played. I thought the William Regal one was hilarious because of William Regal's facial reactions. That's one thing I want to see his son build on a little bit more. His facial reactions. William Regal, I loved his facial reactions back in the day. He was so good at what he did, man. Benjamin says, who does the Ray Liotta impersonation in the outro? Well, all I know is that he's deceased. And it was sent to me as a gift from someone. So I ask no questions. I get no answers. So Mark Hicks, when Jeff Jarrett went to WCW in 99, did I see him as a main event caliber talent? Did I believe he was the chosen one? The only reason why I put my finger in my mouth right now, get that finger out of the ear. You don't know where that finger has been. Somebody asked me on Patreon, I think it was Rams fan, who's live with us tonight. He asked me, like, who's one person that no matter what promotion he ended up with, like, I was just still annoyed. And it was Jeff Jarrett. Jeff Jarrett went to the WWF, like, in the very beginning, when he was doing the Memphis stuff, the Nashville stuff, JERRJARRET, and the roadie. I thought that was okay, but Jeff Jarrett wore off on me quickly. Then when he left and went to WCW, and then that motherfucker showed up again back in the WWE, I was like, oh God, give me a break. Even when, when he teamed up with Owen a little bit, I was like, all right, whatever. But I was never a fan of Jeff Jarrett's. Now I root for the guy. That guy's gone through a lot, especially demons. And back in the day, I used to say some awful stuff about that man because of some of the things that went on behind the scenes in TNA. But even in TNA, I brought this up Tuesday. I have, if you go to This Week in Wrestling History, the week or two before TNA had NWA TNA had their first show, I have a screenshot from a newspaper article. They were interviewing Jeff Jarrett about NWA TNA, which was just about to launch in 2002. And he's sitting there and he's got no shoes on and he's trying to model and he looks ridiculous. I honestly, I don't know many times in my lifetime that I wanted to punch out a newspaper article. Like you see somebody walking down the street and you're just like, oh, I wish. I see the newspaper article and I want to put my hand right through the computer screen. I never liked Jeff Jarrett. When he went to WCW, I thought maybe United States champion at best. When he was doing some stuff teasing with the Horsemen, I just didn't like it. I didn't feel he was the chosen one. I felt that he was in the back pocket of Vince Russo, that Vince Russo had an absolute fondness for him. I just was never a fan of Jeff Jarrett's. Now I'm fine with him. Now I appreciate that the guy could still go after all these years. Funny thing is, back when he was in Memphis, I think it was, when Undertaker was still there and Papa Shango was still there, like when Jeff Jarrett had the really, really locks, the blonde locks, early in his career, that time I thought maybe, but to me, he looked too much like a pretty boy. There's just something about him that just rubbed me the wrong way. So I like this music in WCW, The Chosen One. I think the Chosen One. He had some okay music, but I don't like wrestlers simply because of music. So Cody Collins, what's my favorite heel turn in wrestling history? Boy, that's loaded. Loaded. I'll give you a couple. When I was a kid, when Ray the Crippler Stevens was already a heel. I guess that would be Snooker turn babyface. As far as a heel turn goes, heel turns. Trying to think good. My favorite one is when Terry Funk turned on Ric Flair, put the plastic bag over his head. See, the stupidity of Bryan Danielson getting the bag over his head from Moxley and Wheeler Yuta is the same stupidity when Rey Mysterio had his mask turned around a couple of weeks ago by Chad Gable. If I don't have really, I should have brought a shopping bag in here, but when they put the bag over Bryan Danielson's face, I'm not going to like something simply because it's Bryan Danielson. But they put the bag over his face. Bryan Danielson's holding the bag. And they won't let it go. And I'm like, yeah, all right, yeah. We'll pretend this is a bag. I know I'm wasting good gel material, but pretend this is the bag. This is Bryan Danielson with the bag over his head. He's trying to pull it off. But Moxley and Wheeler Yuta have it held, and he doesn't know what to do. If I'm Bryan Danielson, I go, oh, wait a minute. Tony, that's why the segment sucked. You got to think real life. When I did that indie match and I had the guy wrap the bubble wrap around me, I did the bubble wrap because it looked like I couldn't breathe. And when you wrap bubble wrap around something long enough, they can't get out of it. And then Rey Mysterio. Let's give Rey Mysterio a little heat. I brought this up the other day. Chad Gable is outside the ring. Rey Mysterio is wrestling with Dragon Lee against American Made. And pretend this is Rey's eyes on his mask. All right, Rey's got the mask. And Chad Gable goes like this. He turns it sideways. So what does Rey do? Instead of going like this, Rey is flailing his arms. He's flailing his arms. It just, don't do stuff like that unless, I don't know. But my favorite heel turn, when Terry Funk did it, Terry Funk put a bag and, tied something around it, and Ric Flair couldn't grab the bag. He couldn't grab the bag. If you go back and you watch the segment, it wasn't a case where Ric Flair could have just pulled holes in it and that would have been the end of it. But Bryan Danielson's standing right there, and I'm like, douche, stupid. Put holes in the nostrils. Yeah, I got to be careful with my glasses. I have like 5 pairs of glasses, but for some reason, these are the only ones that I could see good enough without having a headache. How long have we gone? We've gone 77 minutes. So we'll stay a little bit longer. So my favorite heel turn of all time was when Terry Funk turned on Ric Flair. That was spectacular. Hogan joining the end, creating the NWO was great also. Did I feel Hulkamania had run its course? You know what's interesting, guys? I don't feel like Hulkamania ran its course in WCW because there was a whole new crop of opponents. Plus, in 1995, 1996, it was like a crossing roads for wrestling. Within a year or two, that's when you had ECW really kicking their shit up a notch. And you had the Attitude Era kicking in and the hardcore titles and stuff. So 95 was kind of like a turning point. So when Hogan did it in 96, Hulkamania could have gone longer. But they decided to do that out of nowhere. I thought that was great too. I really thought that was good. Randy Savage turning on Hulk Hogan. Listen, when Hulk picked up Elizabeth on Saturday Night's Main Event and carried her to the back, and Macho Man attacked Hogan, that's when the mega powers explode. The mega powers explode. You ever notice whenever I do a Vince impersonation, I always got to look this way. I don't know why. I felt like Hogan deserved the punch in the mouth. That's my girl, and he's like caring for her, and in the back with her, you're like, fuck you doing? I'll take care of her. I don't need you. So those are a few off the top of my head. I mean, we've had some surprises. One of the worst heel turns for me was when Steve Austin. When they tried to turn Steve Austin heel, when he was, doing the alliance stuff, it got better. It got better when he started doing comedy stuff, but to me, the lowest of the low, and for me, it was uncomfortable to watch. Some of you, I guarantee there's enough of you out there that have never seen this. Go out of your way and watch the clip of Triple H and Steve Austin beating the shit out of Lita. The Hardys are involved as well, but that was uncomfortable to watch. Not too many segments in wrestling get me uncomfortable. Like the Katie Vick stuff, I laughed because my father owned a deli that sold chopped meat. I used to make chopped meat. So when, Triple H was like, I screwed her brains out, I'm like, oh, that's chopped meat and sausage meat. I thought it was hilarious. I thought that was funny. But that segment I laughed at. But as far as segments where I feel uncomfortable, go seek that out. That's footage that Triple H, if it was up to him, probably would not. They would not revisit that ever again. That was a very, very bizarre time. It was bizarre. I'm surprised Lita doesn't talk about that night more. Something tells me on pre-interview, she's like, no, let's keep that off the show. All right, somebody asked me about my thoughts on the Ray Fenix situation. I'm going to just say this brief and blunt. Ray Fenix went on Twitter and said, no one stays in a place where they've received inhumane treatment. I cracked a joke and I said, he was talking about the migrant crisis. That's inhumane, where some of these people come from. Sitting at home, collecting a paycheck is not inhumane treatment. Here's something that I'm going to say here. Won't get much press because I'm not going to put it in a separate video. In 2025, Kevin and I are going to be putting a shitload of individual conversations online, and people will not be able to escape it. And people realize how much more people are just clickbaiting conversations, and we're going to throw good shit out there. Whether you like it or you don't like it. This is why wrestlers have lawyers at minimum or agents when they sign contracts. When you agree to get paid, there is something in your contract that if you are injured, we can add that time to your contract. There is no guaranteed number of dates that you're on television. You could sign a 2-year deal, stay home for 2 years, and get paid a certain amount of money. I see, with all due respect to some journalists out there, there's one guy that I absolutely respect. I'll call him out. And because I say this with none but sincerity involved. I saw Raj Giri write today that the amount of money that some of these people are making staying home is not as much as we think it is. And there are other bigger names involved. And what he said is 100% correct. But what he misses the point about is when Ray Fenix or anybody else met with Tony Khan a couple of years ago, offered him a contract, Ray Fenix looked at the contract, Rick Baker looked at the contract, Ricky Starks looked at the contract, Miro looked at the contract, everybody looked at the contract. Sorry, I don't have a pen, so I'll use this Goldberg WCW gumball that's unopened. They all looked at the contract and said, you signed a fucking contract. Now you don't like the contract. Too bad. Too bad. Period. Wrestling fans could cry, get angry, and say, if you're not going to use him, just let him go. Just let him go. He's going to go to WWE eventually. Just let him go. No, motherfucker. Sign the contract. No. Wait, you know what the problem is, guys? Because for 5 years, people wanted you to think that Tony Khan is a little puppy. He's a puppy with a lot of money that just loves wrestling, and he's a little immature, and he's a little naive, and some people taking advantage of him, but he's got a very good heart, and he is the opposite of Vince McMahon. What is this, an episode of Star Trek? These people that say that are the last people I want to do business with. The people online with these great, passionate tweets that get 10,000 likes and 1 million views. Oh, let him work. I mean, he did do everything that you asked him to do in the past. Make him happy. Don't be like Vince. Come on. These are the prime years of their... Fuck you. They signed a contract. This is not anything controversial. Tony Khan could sign someone and say, you stay home for 2 years. You stay home for 2 years. I mean, are we going to pretend and not remember that in WCW, a shitload of people were paid a lot of money to stay home just so they wouldn't go to WWF at the time? I mean, are we being serious for a minute? Just because you weren't born at the time or you weren't a wrestling fan at the time, this is nothing new. But it wasn't Tony. That was Bischoff. Bischoff's a prick. Tony's not a prick. Tony and Nick Khan didn't get $1 billion from winning a lottery. They did it because of business. And yeah, there's a lot of business that is unsexy. The difference is when it comes to Shad Khan, did I say Nick Khan? Shad Khan? With his parts business? Sorry. I don't know anybody on Twitter that tweets about the parts business. Did you see what happened? Distributor A said that distributor B, used the wrong packing tape and they shipped it with UPS and the packages went everywhere. Oh my God. A lot of Shad Khan's business we don't talk about because that's not something that's dirt. We're wrestling fans. We're selfish. We want to see Ricky Starks on TV. We want to see Ray Phoenix on TV. And that is totally understandable. But as much as I want to criticize Tony Khan right now, that guy is doing nothing wrong. These motherfuckers signed the contract. Don't like the contract? Don't sign the contract. You signed the contract. As much as I listen, I have been praising Ricky Starks on these shows before he even went to NWA. Ricky Starks is a future superstar if he wants it. But Ricky Starks will also privately, admittedly say, I signed the contract. I signed the contract. What's happening now, I don't like it, but hey, that's what happens. Sorry, guys. You signed a contract to get a loan. Oh, fuck, I got to pay it back. Oh, shit. I can't skip a few months. Oh, come on. It's the holidays. The right thing. Don't charge me a late fee. Come on. I want to buy myself a new blow-up doll. Come on. You let this month go. Be a good guy. Don't be a Vince. Sorry, I have no sympathy for Ray Phoenix, especially when this guy says inhumane treatment. You think they did? Shove Chihulas up his ass? What do you think they did? Ray, you can't wrestle right now? Clean the fucking toilets. Vamos, Andre. Get on your knees. Beg. Beg, motherfucker. You want to take titles? Beg. 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 Bees. Inhumane treatment. Inhumane treatment is somebody who's kidnapped and locked in a fucking basement with only water for 10 days. Inhumane treatment of people living on the streets, getting no assistance whatsoever. Inhumane treatment is you see what's going on in some of these other countries and seeing people, being trafficked and all that, whatever. That's inhumane treatment. Oh, I cannot wrestle. Oh, I'm forced to stay home and do nothing. You signed the fucking contract. That's the truth. It's just that you say that online. You're a Vince lover. So that's my comments about Ray Phoenix. I have no sympathy. Oh, and by the way, I definitely need to mention this because I saw a few of you saying this earlier. Be prepared. It will be part of the Tuesday news update also. Because I got to get it in the synopsis, so it's there forever. I find it hysterical to see all of these AEW hardcore fans all in an uproar on social media because Kyle Fletcher beat Okada on Collision. It's Okada's first pin in AEW. Oh my God, it's shocking. When they announced the brackets for the Continental Classic, we revealed the brackets like 2 weeks ago. I reminded everyone what the Continental Classic is and what ends up happening. Some of your favorites will break out from the gate, win. Then you know what happens after 2-3 weeks? Oh, shit. So-and-so's got 9 points. Ricochet's only got 0. So now we got to give Ricochet a couple of wins. Now we have to give this person a couple of losses. What did you all think, guys? You think Okada was going to lose because he called the referee bitch? Okada's in the Continental Classic. Look at the people who are in the Classic with him in the Blue League. It's what? The Beast Mortis, Shelton Benjamin, Daniel Garcia, Kyle Fletcher, and there's Mark Briscoe. He was going to lose to somebody in there. What did you think? Okada was going to go 18 points and run the table? See, that's the problem with the Continental Classic. People think that some people aren't going to lose. Nobody looked at the brackets like, oh, shit. That means Okada's going to have to lose to Mark Briscoe. The Beast Mortis. Ew. Daniel Garcia. Holy shit, Daniel Garcia beating Okada? What? Yeah, that's what happens when you put Okada in the Continental Classic. Sooner or later, he's got to get some losses. Kyle Fletcher's probably, maybe Shelton Benjamin to an extent. But what did you think Okada was going to do? I saw it trending on social media right before we went live. IWC in a buzz, Kyle Fletcher upsets Okada. And I'm like, I can't wait for the heads to explode if Mark Briscoe beats Okada or the Beast Mortis beats Okada, or dare I say, Das Wonder Kid, Daniel Garcia beats Okada. What did you think Okada was going to do? That's the problem with the Continental Classic. At the end, there's 3 matches taking place at World's End from the Continental Classic. And they added this, I'll just say it, added this retarded, stupid stipulation. The runner-up from the Blue League faces the leader of the Gold League. And the runner-up from the Gold League faces the leader of the Blue League. And those 2 winners will face each other later on in the night. So Darby Allin could end up having 3 matches at World's End. 2 matches at World's End. But the point is, you could end up having 2 people from the Gold League facing in the final. You could have 3-way ties. What happens if this person has 9 points and this person has 9 points, but this person has beat the other person before? Does that person get the advantage? You see, it turns into a fucking mess like this. So, of course, Okada's going to get the Oscar push. He's going to lose a few matches, and so other people could creep up. And then in 2 weeks from now, you'll see that, this person is a 3-way tie with 9 points. I just laughed when I saw that. I'm like, what did you think Okada was doing? Undefeated? Maggie wants to know, what do I think of Ricochet's comment that even though not the only reason, but there would be no AEW without Ricochet. I know Kevin and I are going to have a fun conversation about this tomorrow. I think Ricochet, let me put it this way. When some people play word association, I'm going to say a name. The first word that comes to mind. And you use whatever you want. Vince McMahon, dictator. Whatever you want. Now when you say to me, what's the first word that comes to your mind when I say the word Ricochet? And my answer back is insecure. Yes, guys, people who get hot ass and could look like $1 million, be some of the most insecure people around. I think Ricochet has this tremendous insecure complex about himself. He is so insecure. That's why he's got to do spectacle in matches. That's why he's got to do spots. He needs to have the moments like he did with Logan Paul to remember. He needs a highlight film. His life needs to be a bunch of highlights, not a long book. Ricochet just wants 5 pages of highlights. Spot, 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 spot. There would be no AEW without Ricochet? I strongly disagree. And if that was the case, then in storyline, Death Riders should crucify him next week. Moxley should show up and grab a bunch of Clorox and try to wash his mouth out with Clorox. Because AEW, you look at the ratings, you look at the success, you look at who is responsible for the biggest gates and attendance, and and none of them are remotely similar to Ricochet. You could bring up Kenny Omega and you could bring up some others, but they also have all the tools to back it up. Ricochet, I like Ricochet. I think Ricochet is extremely talented. And if I was starting a company, I absolutely would want Ricochet in it. But he comes across as insecure, man. There'd be no AEW without Ricochet. You ain't a fucking pioneer. You're just another spot monkey. There was 300 of you back in the Lucha Underground days. That's why nobody really made a big deal. Yeah, we heard about Prince Puma. Yeah, we thought he was fucking great. We also wondered before we saw your face how ugly you must have been that they hid you under a mask. But then we saw pictures like, why is this guy under a mask? He looks like $1 million. But no, there's 300 Prince Pumas at that time. There'd be no Ricochet if there wasn't. There'd be no AEW if there wasn't Ricochet. Got news for you. I'll say the opposite right now. There'd be no Ricochet right now without AEW. Because Ricochet would go to maybe GCW or maybe another indie promotion with 400 people, and Ricochet would do all of his outlandish stuff, and people that be polite will ooh and ah about it. The women will go crazy for it. Then after a while, it'll be like, we've seen this before. We've seen this shit before. Again? You did this 10 years ago. Again? So, Ricochet, reverse it. Without AEW, there'd be no Ricochet right now. Deuce says it was an unnamed disinfectant. No, I'm not talking about the Death Rise and Orange Cassidy. I think that was mouthwash. Or it might have been water with green food coloring. I think it was water with green food coloring. Because if that mouthwash gets in your eyes, that shit does sting. Listen, there's so many ways to rig stuff. You ever remember the infamous photos of me fighting Louis? And Louis's face is bleeding like a pig, and I had a thing of Comet. I don't think I have the picture handy, but I had the thing of Comet, and I poured it on his face, and you literally hear the crowd going, "Oh, fuck." Because everybody knows you pour Comet on a wound, and that shit fucking hurts. Oh yeah, I do have it. Yeah, I do have it. I'll show you very, very quickly. I do have it. I honestly didn't have it prepared, but yeah. See, that is me pouring Comet all over Louis's head that was bleeding like a pig. And everybody was going nuts when I did it. And that's Louis screaming in pain afterwards. And the crowd was like, "Oh, fuck, Comet and blood." Guys, that was baby powder. That was baby powder. But you see what I mean? If you rig it the right way, it looks very real. I took a can of Comet and I dumped it out and I washed it out and I put it in hot water, let it sit for a day or two. So all of the remnants of it, and then we filled it up with baby powder. And I even think, I'm not kidding when I say, I think it was cooling baby powder. And we had, when I poured it on him, afterwards, he's like, "Oh, that felt nice." Because you're bleeding and you cut open, you get this nice cooling sensation with the baby powder. He's like, "Oh, that felt good." There's ways of doing stuff. The visual is everything. Presentation is everything. The Death Rider stuff is not that great. And without addressing his name, there's somebody else in the podcasting world, and I respect him also, but he wrote 35 examples of what wrestlers did in history, that if you're going to criticize the Death Riders and John Moxley and Orange Cassidy and the thing of the chemicals, well, then you got to bring up, well, the Macho Man got bit by a snake, and this person did this. This person did that. Don't forget this person, and this happened. And my answer, quietly, I was saying to myself, yeah, but those people were cool. We don't care that Orange Cassidy gets battery acid dumped in his face right now. You know, guy puts his hand in his pockets when he's getting jumped by 5 people. That's not cool. That is a Polak. That is an idiot. I don't care how cool you are. Wear shades, do whatever you want. You're getting your ass kicked by 5 people who are supposed to be a mob, taking shit seriously, that are truly in storyline trying to destroy AEW, and you put your hands in your pockets. I get it. To show you that you can't break me. I'm hitting Moxley where it hurts. I'm acting like it doesn't bother me. I'm putting my hands in my pockets to send a sign to Moxley like, you think you're so bad? Look, I'll even put my hands in my pockets. I'll feel better tomorrow. No, you come off like a moron. That's the difference. I like the segment. I like when you use props, but you got to use them the right way, and it's got to be for the right people. Look at JD Drake. I have nothing against JD Drake whatsoever. Guy's a good guy. I actually have a couple of friends that are friends with him. They tell me nothing but great things about him. But for the casual AEW fan, he's getting chair bashed on Dynamite by Jon Moxley. People are like, who is this? Why do I care about him? Fucking cut his head off for all I care. I don't care. You got to beat up people that care, that you care for. And I know what some people say, well, Orange Cassidy is one of the biggest baby faces. Get it. But the people attacking him, nobody gives a shit about. This is the Blackpool Combat Club renamed with, it's basically kind of like the Love Boat. When you got into the later seasons, like you were missing a character or two, and then some other blonde is on the show. Or better yet, Fantasy Island, when Tattoo was gone. And suddenly Mr. Belvedere was fucking there. Anybody remember Fantasy Island? Boss, seaplane, boss. He was gone. And who did they put in his place? Mr. Belvedere is like a 6'5" blimp. We used to see in little midget Herb Villaches, and now you got this fucking, nobody cared. You got to care about the people on both sides. It feels like later years of Fantasy Island, like, oh, Bryan Danielson's not in the Blackpool Combat Club anymore. So now we got Pac. Ooh. And Marina Shafir, who looks like it's the time of the month every week. Marina Shafir is angry. Pull the underwears out from under your ass. The forced anger is it's not believable on TV. The Death Riders should be happy sometimes, cause mischievous and laugh. When me and my friends used to do fucked up stuff when we were younger, we laughed. We worked in a supermarket, and I'm not proud of it. We worked in a supermarket back in the 80s. And we stole tons of cigarettes. My friend, tampered with some items. But when we were doing it, Betty, I got an even better one. When me and my friend, when we were 19 years old, we stole a bunch of jewelry at a house where my ex-girlfriend was babysitting. And at that time, Eric B. and Rakim had come out with the album Paid in Full. So my friend Joey was in the bedroom fooling around with his girlfriend. And I was on the couch with my ex-girlfriend. And his girlfriend went to the bathroom and something. So Joey, being curious, he's opening drawers. He opens a drawer and he sees a bunch of jewelry. So he calls me into the room. He's like, Anthony, come here. So I walk in. I'm like, what? He's like, look. I look in the thing. There's a whole bunch of jewelry. It's like, should we take it? I'm like, I don't know, Joey. I mean, that's crazy. We get arrested for it. Yeah, but come on, you can take it. So I'm like, well, how are we going to do it without them knowing? So Joey's like, look, I'll keep my girlfriend occupied. But as soon as I take it, I got to give you a sign. So he's like, you'll know. He's like, you'll know when I got it. So his girlfriend gets out of the bathroom. I go back on the couch. And in the back of my mind, we're going to steal a whole bunch of jewelry. So we're hanging out and everything. And my friend's in the bedroom. And I think he's trying to get his girlfriend. Go talk to your girlfriend. Go have a cigarette or something. She's like, why? I want to be with you. So finally, he gets her out of the room. And he goes in the drawer. And instead of taking 1 or 2 items, he grabs everything. And he shoves it in his pocket. And he walks in the other room and he's sweating, I guess from the excitement of it. And he looks at me and he's like, you remember that song by Eric B. and Rakim, I Know You Got Soul? I know you got soul, so you got it. He looks at me and goes, I know you got gold, you got it. So I realized he took it. So we left. My friend, he gave his girlfriend an excuse. We left. And we were in the car. And we're like, he did. Fucking just stole those. Holy shit. Oh my God. We were excited. And then we hocked it the next day. And then many of you know the story that the guy that we hocked it also did piano lessons, got arrested for being a pedophile. It's actually a news story that if you pull the old newspaper, you'll see it. But the point is, when we were committing mischievousness or arguably crimes, we were laughing. We were excited. We were like, oh my God. The Death Riders just looked like they're constipated all day long. It's not believable. Moxley could stand there and do this. You ever see Moxley doing this? Orange Cassidy, if you don't come out here, I'm going to do with you that AEW needs to be clean. He does this thing with his face like, no, you're not impressive. It looks like you got food in your tooth. Go watch when he cuts promos. For our channel members on YouTube, we did a little special on Moxley a couple of weeks ago. I did a whole vignette. We put it in slow motion. And you see in slow motion, Moxley's talking, he's like this. And he looks like a goldfish. That's not what people should be saying about arguably your biggest storyline on TV right now. And yes, we're doing it to be funny here. I try to put a little comedic twist to it. I have nothing against those guys. I want to just see it better. Just want to see it better. We go look at Moxley. You look at, just pay attention. You're like, you got something in your tooth? All right. We're going to wrap this up in 10 minutes, finish at exactly 2 hours. Because I got things to do. I got people to see. And I got to get up early for work tomorrow. So, Benjamin is asking, why did Kota Ibushi be allowed to wrestle with that mutant growth on his back? I don't know. Ask the doctors who cleared it. You know, sometimes someone shows up, you're like, oh my God, what is that? You know, or they have something on their face. I hope that's not catchy. You know, whatever happened, you know, the doctors felt it was okay. I remember, who was it, guys? Who was it? And I don't think it was, was it CM Punk? Who remembers this? Shout out to the first person who remembers this. I think it was CM Punk. Who remembers right before CM Punk left WWE, somebody had like a massive growth on their body? I think it was CM Punk. And it burst while he was having a match. And then he went to the doctor. All right, iconic, yeah. It was CM Punk, Royal Rumble 2014. It was CM Punk. And at the time, we covered it, and we're like, how the fuck did he get cleared? The doctor let it go. And this shit burst while he was in the Royal Rumble. You know, sometimes, you know, whatever it is, even if it's a blister, I mean, you know, sometimes, listen, even though my stuff was bad, I did work indies, and I did do the managing stuff for about 4.5 years, on and off. And I will tell you, one of the most disgusting things that would happen, and sometimes I always thought it was intentional sometimes, but one of the most disgusting things that would happen is you'd be laid out in the ring or on the floor. And if you've seen some of my videos, you've seen it. And the person is standing above you, and I'm laid out like this. And the person's got his face right above your face. And if you look closely, you see his sweat dripping in my mouth. And you're supposed to act like you're unconscious. So here's a good one. I got hit from Jason Static. And it went off the air, and that's the night I had the concussion. I threw up a few times. I'm in the ring, in between the ropes, knocked out like this. And he reaches over and he's throwing smacks, saying stuff to me. And if you look closely, you'll see the sweat from his chin dripping into my mouth. Now, because I'm selling like I'm unconscious, that's not easy to stand there. Like you would think you'd be like this. You're like, I had to sit there and take it. And I honestly thought that was done on purpose. Sometimes you lay it out and someone will stand over you and you look, that's gross. You imagine if somebody has a blister or something, a growth, and it bursts while you're having them. Oh, that's gross, man. Go back and watch it. It was funny. I'm laid out and you literally see like 3 drips like fall into my mouth and I wanted so bad. I was like, oh, what is that? Kevin Milwaukee, how close was Jerry Lawler and the Hitman's relationship for Brett to allow Jerry Lawler to come into the WWF in like 93 to insult his mother and father, harsh like that? Brett went to Memphis. Brett wrestled in Memphis for once or twice. It was storyline. Stu Hart was fine with it. Stu Hart was, a legend in wrestling, and they didn't take it personal. When you want to get real heel heat sometimes you got to go really, really personal. Me, I kind of felt bad for Helen Hart. Helen Hart, like, I'm sure she was a wonderful woman, maybe even angelic territory. But all I remember from Helen Hart was the smile on her face and those teeth when Bob Backlund took on Bret Hart. And it was the, I don't know if it was Royal Rumble or King of the Ring, but it's when Bob Backlund won the championship and Owen Hart threw Martha Hart threw the towel in. If you watch, and listen, I'm one of the biggest Bob Backlund fans there ever was. I appreciated Bob Backlund outside of his promos, which were cringe. But if you go back and you watch that match, Survivor Series 94, thank you guys. You go back and watch, it's painful. Because he's got the chicken wing locked in him for like 12 minutes. You have any idea how painful it is to watch that? And all the time, Owen is trying to convince Martha to throw the towel in. And she's got, because of her facial features and how old she was, it just looked like she was nonstop smiling. And she was very concerned. But Owen's like, throwing the towel, here, throwing the white towel. And she's there like, she's got these giant teeth. Remember how Andre had chiclets for teeth? You go watch the segment. So Backlund and Bret Hart, that was around 94-ish or 94, 95. It had to be 95 because then Backlund lost the Diesel right around that time. But Jerry Lawler and Bret Hart, it was business. They didn't take it personal, but it worked. It worked because, you really didn't go there with family like that. That's why when Roddy Piper made fun of Cyndi Lauper's mom that time, like, people made a big deal about it. And Roddy Piper's like, latrine, Dominique. And we were like, yeah, so? Like, so what? But people were like, ooh, Cyndi Lauper hit him with the purse. Oh, yeah. Yes. Jerry Lawler did recycle some of the Helen Hart jokes with Mae Young. But go back and watch the finish of Backlund versus Hart. Just look at Helen the entire match. I found myself laughing. It was not believable. And Stu, when he got older, you felt bad, but Stu was looking around like Joe Biden. He was just like looking around. I don't even think Stu knew where he was. He was just looking around like, Glad to be alive. So, all right, we got 3 minutes. Then we'll get a jet. Time flies when you're having fun. Bobby Heenan was great. One of my favorite Bobby Heenan moments of all time is when Macho Man reunited with Elizabeth. Will you marry me? And she said yes. And they panned the crowd. And I'll never forget, they panned the crowd on some woman who had blonde curly hair. And she was crying. And Bobby Heenan just let out this legitimate laugh, like making fun of, they panned the crowd and every person who was crying was fugly. And Bobby Heenan just couldn't stop laughing at all of these ugly women crying in the crowd. I lost it that night. That was great. Nothing personal against him. And who should talk? I'm fugly. I admit it. Do I think that they let Liv keep the title? I think Liv will hold on to it a little bit longer. I don't think Liv is going to lose it to Io Sky. Even though Asuka's returning soon, I don't think Liv loses it yet. She's on a roll right now. Whether people like it or not, Liv Morgan is on a roll. Liv Morgan is going to be Women's Wrestler of the Year for WWE. You mark my words. All right, let's do one more question. And we're going to cut it, scratch it. What day is Saturday night's main event predictions? Probably Wednesday, maybe Friday. I mean, I'll probably talk about it with Kev tomorrow. I mean, there's going to be another match or two added. Most of us still are wondering, are they going to do Roman Reigns versus Solo Sikoa for the Ula Fala? I mean, Solo insisting that he's still our tribal chief. I was under the impression for the last bunch of weeks that Roman versus Solo for the Ula Fala, unless they're going to keep that for the Rumble, I don't know if I want to really see that for the Rumble. Tyrese, thank you for the 2-spot, Tyrese. Do I see CM Punk and Seth Rollins at the Royal Rumble? No. WrestleMania. I personally think WrestleMania is the place to do it. I still think CM Punk versus Gunther is a good possibility for the Royal Rumble. Fans want to see it. And I personally don't think you do Gunther versus CM Punk at WrestleMania. Most people believe the grandest stage of them all should be Punk versus Rollins. That was the match earlier this year that didn't happen because of the injury. So I don't think Royal Rumble, I think that's way too soon. It's been building for too long to just have it. Because you know what it is too? Both Royal Rumble matches are going to overlook a lot of the other matches on the card. So I personally think, WrestleMania is better suited for Seth Rollins versus CM Punk. So we'll see. All right, guys, I'm going to jet. I want to thank you as always for joining me. Again, tomorrow night, Kevin and I will be live on DTKCDiscord.com. So hopefully you can join us. We're going to have a fun show. Absolutely. I'll be live on Patreon Tuesday. I think it's an off-the-cuff episode. So we'll have a little added content there. Kev will be live on Thursday with Trez for K&T Chronicles on Patreon Discord. And then we got the news updates this week. So we got a lot coming, and hope you could stick around for some of those shows. So everyone, thank you as always. DTKCShow.com. Go check it out. Let me know what you think. We'll be adding some additional features there, some cool little things. You'll see as we go along. If anybody has any suggestions, send them along. DM me, Twitter, Patreon, email. Send over suggestions, and we'll definitely check them out. So thanks, guys. Much love. I'll catch you all in the next one.
It's now time for...
No, it is not now time for. We did that already.
As far back as I can remember, I always wanted to be a podcaster. For me to live any other way was nuts. To me, those goody-good people who worked shitty jobs for bum paychecks and took the subway to work every day and worried about their bills were dead. I mean, they were suckers. They had no balls. If I wanted something, I just took it. I ran everything. I paid the bills. I paid the host. I even paid the masked maniac. Everybody had their hands out. Everything was for the taking. We always called each other good fellas. You would always hear from somebody. You're gonna like Don Tony. He's all right. He's a good fella. He's one of us. But if you're part of my crew, nobody ever tells you they're gonna get rid of you. It doesn't happen that way. There weren't any arguments or curses like in the movies. See, your haters come with smiles. They come as your friends, the people who've claimed they care the most for your life. And now that's all over. And that's the best part. Today everything is different. There's lots of action. I don't have to wait around for everything like everyone else. Oh, I didn't get the vaccine? Fuck you, vaccine me. Oh, your delivery guy has COVID? Fuck you, feed me. Right after I moved here, I ordered egg noodles and ketchup, and I got spaghetti with meat sauce. I'm no longer an average nobody, while they get to live the rest of their lives like a bunch of schnooks.